We begin tonight with breaking news. For years, there's been speculation about who was in convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's orbit and what exactly they knew. Tonight, that list has begun to be made public. A little more than an hour ago, a federal court unsealed dozens of court documents related to a case against his associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. Dozens, if not hundreds, are still to come. Among them, a list of 150 names, which allegedly includes victims, employees, and other high-powered associates. You'll remember that before he reportedly killed himself in prison, Epstein was a jet-setting financier with high-profile acquaintances like former Presidents Bill Clinton and Donald Trump and Britain's Prince Andrew. At the time of his death, he was awaiting trial over federal child sex trafficking charges. He had previously pleaded guilty in Florida to soliciting and procuring a minor for prostitution in 2008. Let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Angela Sinadella to break some of this down for us. Angela, what is your first initial reaction when you see this?
So, Valerie, my first reaction is that the allegations that I'm seeing so far in these 40 exhibits that have been released are primarily against Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, which was likely to be expected for two reasons. First, note that this was the basis of two criminal prosecutions, again against Epstein and Maxwell. So while these documents remained sealed from the public, they were not sealed from law enforcement and from the FBI and from other investigators. So the FBI has previously gone through all of the documents that will continue to be released, and from that only found two criminal prosecutions worth pursuing. I mean, that said, there could certainly have been investigations that did not end up as prosecutions, but still that's what we're seeing. And the second reason is you have to remember the context of this lawsuit, of this information. This is not just everything that has ever existed regarding Jeffrey Epstein. It is solely documents that are being released that are related to a defamation lawsuit between the victim, one of the victims, Virginia Giuffre, and Ghislaine Maxwell, where she alleged that Ghislaine Maxwell called her a liar, and that was defamation, given that what she had originally said was that she had been abused by both Maxwell and Epstein. So if you're going through a lawsuit like that, the only information that you're allowed to acquire or discover is related specifically to that. So while other names might be caught up in these documents, so far I am not seeing real allegations against public figures or third parties, Valerie.
And Angela, there's been a lot of twists and turns about this release because some have objected to their names being disclosed. So what happened there?
Yes, and I'd like to note that some still have objected. So it's unclear whether or not we will know with finality and totality all of the names and all of the accusations and allegations. It's likely that the women who have had theirs redacted are likely victims, or maybe they were underage at the time, and so thus do not want this information revealed. But what happened with the judge is that she unsealed these documents in December, but allowed for a 14-day window for anyone who objected to their depositions or their documents being unsealed to file a petition with the court to either present an affidavit or a reason why their names should not be unsealed. And it appears that there are 3, maybe 4 individuals who have followed through with that. And so the judge is still deciding whether or not their affidavits are going to be outweighed by the public interest involved here, Valerie.
And Angela, victims aside, just because someone's name might appear in these documents, it doesn't necessarily mean they did anything illegal, right?
Yes, Valerie, you're a great lawyer because that is absolutely true. So first of all, likely the ways in which people would be named here are mostly through depositions. And while depositions are taken under oath, at the end of the day, they are literally just that, they are allegations. So even if we come to a deposition where someone says, you know, a former president or a CEO did ABC to me, those are not investigations. Those are simply accusations. So almost the worst we could see is an accusation. But as I said earlier, because only 2 prosecutions came out of this that were criminal, and given the extremely high-profile nature of this case, you might expect that if there was more salacious criminal allegations involved, that those would have been followed through, Valerie.
Angela, you sort of touched on this already, but could there be legal challenges ahead for those who were named?
So I don't see any real criminal prosecutions here. However, I do see possibility for civil lawsuits. And that's because while the New York Adult Survivors Act, their look back window has expired, there is something in New York City where we know Jeffrey Epstein had a townhouse, which involves gender violence. And that's a 3-year window. So statutes of limitations for anyone who was a victim of sexual assault in New York City since the beginning of time could theoretically have a lawsuit here. So generally, what prevents people from filing lawsuits who are victims are privacy issues and also evidentiary issues. But in this case, if their names are already going to be released, and then if in addition to that, there is evidence that will be unveiled here, whether or not it is flight logs or depositions or other people that could buttress their cases, there is possibility we could see lawsuits here. I would actually almost guarantee that.
And given that, Angela, what is the key takeaway when you see all of these documents being released, possible names? What is the key takeaway here that the public should walk away from with this?
Well, I think we are very grateful that these prosecutions happened against the people who appear to be the biggest perpetrators. I think there's also a takeaway here, though, that judges really do tend to feel that there is value in unsealing information to the public. So this all happened because of the Miami Herald and other newspapers, which joined in their lawsuit to make sure that this information became public. And the judge agreed that, yes, it is in the public interest for all of this information to come out. And so we will continue to see more information come out and, as I said, likely form the basis of further lawsuits.
All right, Angela Senadella, we appreciate you breaking all of this down for us. Thank you so much for your time. Now let's bring in NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin. Erin, I know you've had a chance to sort of look at some of these documents. What do we know so far?
Well, there's a lot to go to, about 40 documents in total, each document ranging from 2 pages to 98 pages. So there's a lot of material there. Some of the pages include the deposition of Ghislaine Maxwell, who, as we know, was convicted of sex trafficking and sentenced to prison, currently serving prison time. In her deposition, she repeatedly denies any allegations of any wrongdoing, any allegations of any knowledge of what Jeffrey Epstein was doing, Jeffrey Epstein's activities. She's very belligerent in the deposition. There is a mention, a redacted mention, of a 13-year-old girl that was redacted as part of these court documents. So that is what we know so far. We're still working through this. Of course, worth again mentioning that this is all part of a defamation lawsuit that was filed by Virginia Giuffre, an alleged Epstein victim, in 2015. It was a lawsuit that was settled out of court in 2017, but these records have been sealed for years. The judge making the determination last month to unseal these records. And again, we are just working through them. It's thought that there are more than 150 names, the names of potential Epstein associates, potential Epstein victims that are all in these documents set to be released, although 2 of the names have been withheld by the court. And
do we know more about those 2 names, why they were withheld?
Well, the names are Jane Doe 107 being referred in these documents, as well as J Doe 110. And the judge taking the decision to not include the name of Jane Doe 107 that's cited specifically in these documents because she is saying that she lives in a foreign country that would look not well upon having been named in these documents, and that this is a security issue for her. So the court is considering that argument, expected to decide it later in the month. And then there is J Doe 110. We don't know this individual, obviously, his identity. We don't know why they're challenging the release of J Doe 110's name. However, we do know that the court had initially ruled that those documents be released in connection to J Doe 110 because this individual is already out in the public. And that is worth mentioning, that many of these individuals thought to be named in these documents, according to prior court ruling, have already been mentioned in the press or prior court proceedings.
And are we hearing from any of the more well-known names that we've heard throughout this case, like the former presidents, like Prince Andrew or Ghislaine Maxwell herself? Has anyone responded yet?
Well, we heard from Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney last night in a press interview make the point that out of everyone in this alleged sex trafficking ring, she is the only person in jail and that she is a woman. As we comb through these documents and come across these names, we will be out to the various representatives for their reaction as well.
All right, more to come. Erin McLaughlin, thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Turning now to Iran, where more than 100 people are dead today after 2 bombs went off at a public memorial service. Based on the sheer scale of the attack, these numbers are expected to rise. So far, nobody has claimed responsibility for what is now considered one of the worst attacks in Iranian history. Iranian media says 2 bombs went off during a memorial service for Iran's former top general Qasem Soleimani. Local officials say the bombs were likely detonated by remote control. Videos capture the devastating aftermath and a warning that some of what you'll see is disturbing. Emergency services pulled up to a gruesome scene. Dozens of people dead or injured laying all over the street, and some of the victims were children. Iran is blaming Israel for the attack, warning they will, quote, pay the price. But the White House says there is no indication that Israel was involved. Qasem Soleimani was killed by a U.S. drone strike in 2020. Iranian media says his annual memorial service has drawn large crowds ever since. Today's attack, which comes one day after a drone strike killed a senior Hamas leader in Beirut, only adds to a growing sense of unrest across the Middle East and a fear that the Israel-Hamas war is spiraling throughout the region. And where the Biden administration just announced Secretary of State Antony Blinken will be traveling tomorrow. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons joins us now from Lebanon. Keir, thanks for being with us this evening. What is the latest here, and why do officials think Soleimani's memorial service was targeted?
Well, that's a good question, and honestly, the answer is we don't know because, Valerie, we don't know who carried out that double bombing there in Iran. Now, there are suggestions from the Americans, for example, American officials, that it may have been ISIS or another terror group. That is a possibility. There is ISIS still in this region and in Iran, and there are a number of groups, including ISIS, that would look to try to destabilize Iran. It could be a group that is hoping to ensure that the Israelis are blamed. And in a way, perhaps that perception is the most important point, because in the streets of Tehran tonight, we've heard crowds out once again shouting death to America and death to Israel. Whether Israel was involved, clearly the US says it has no evidence to suggest that Israel was. And I guess you could ask yourself the question, what reason would Israel have? Perhaps there was someone in the crowd that Israel might have wanted to target. But right now, we honestly do not know. And inevitably, in this region, that leads to rumor and speculation.
And Keir, that rumor and speculation again, Iran is pointing fingers at Israel and the U.S. The U.S. denies Israel was involved. Israel and Iran have been engaged in a shadow war for years. Experts are saying today's attack doesn't quite fall in line with Israel's tactics, right?
Yeah, some are, that's true. Although, honestly, it is a fact that, historically speaking, Israel has carried out targeted assassinations over many, many years and many decades. Here in Lebanon, for example, and just this week, it's pretty clear that senior Hamas leader who was assassinated by a drone, it's pretty clear that that was Israel, although Israel is saying, is not taking responsibility for it. But U.S. officials saying that while the U.S. wasn't told in advance of that attack, that it was told by Israel as it was playing out. And the Israelis have been open in saying that they plan to try to target Hamas leaders wherever they are after the October 7th terror attacks. I mean, listen, I think the big issue here, of course, just going back to that double explosion in Iran, is the looming fear, and it's a real fear expressed privately by leaders in this region that I hear about the conversations they have, not in public, the private conversations, that fear that there could at some stage be a clash between Israel in northern Israel and Hezbollah here in Lebanon, which is, of course, a proxy militia for Iran, effectively a clash between Israel and Iran, a clash that the US might be pulled into. We've been warning about that for a long time. It hasn't happened yet. Doesn't mean it won't happen at some point if the tension that we've seen the past few months continues in the year ahead.
All right, Keir Simmons, thank you so much. We appreciate your reporting. We're learning more about that Japan Airlines collision in Tokyo that killed 5 members of the country's Coast Guard. Miraculously, all 379 passengers and crew on board that airliner managed to safely escape. Now investigators are trying to figure out what exactly went wrong using flight records inside the plane's black boxes. Here's NBC's Tom Costello.
Fire and terror on the runway in Tokyo as a fully loaded Japan Airlines passenger plane arriving on a domestic flight crashed into a smaller Japanese Coast Guard plane. The massive fireball rolling down the runway.
Airport is closed. Airport is closed.
Inside the JAL plane, terrified passengers saw flames outside their windows, smoke rolling through the cabin. Swedish tourist Anton Deba was on board with his family.
I looked to the left and I see flames all over the windows, and the plane starts to shake and all the lights turn dark and everyone starts screaming in Japanese.
Once stopped, passengers evacuated down 2 emergency chutes. As airport firefighters attacked the flames, the plane's tail collapsed to the ground. Exactly the kind of worst-case runway incursion the NTSB has warned about in the U.S. after so many close calls in 2023. The crash happened on runway 34 right, precisely where the JAL Airbus A350 had been cleared to land. The question for Japanese investigators, why was that smaller Coast Guard plane on the same runway, possibly preparing for takeoff? Of the 6 Coast Guard crew members on an earthquake relief mission, only the captain survived, now in critical condition. But all 379 people on board the passenger plane survived, including 8 infants, precisely what flight crews in the U.S. and abroad train for. Regardless of the size of the aircraft, the FAA requires that within 15 seconds of the aircraft stopping for an accident, it must be able to start evacuating everybody out through the windows, through the doors, in just 90 seconds. That FAA rule is the global standard.
Get up, get out, leave everything!
Critical to surviving, leaving everything behind and getting out. When an American Airlines plane caught fire in Chicago in 2016, some passengers still grabbed their carry-ons.
When passengers do not follow the instructions and do not leave their belongings in the airplane, they're not only putting themselves at risk, they're putting others at risk because they're blocking exits.
In Tokyo, tragedy, but survival on the runway.
All right, Tom Costello, thank you. Don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. Up next, the flu, RSV, and COVID are spreading at alarming rates. They're even putting kids in the hospital. What you need to know to keep you and your family healthy. Plus, a woman is suing Hershey for $5 million because of false advertising over its pumpkin-shaped Reese's cups. And get your shovels ready. It is winter. A coast-to-coast storm is going to drop a lot of snow and rain across the country. We have your forecast, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Here are some of the other headlines we're watching tonight. Former President Donald Trump is asking the Supreme Court to overturn a Colorado state ruling that removed him from the state's ballot this year. It comes as the court faces pressure to answer whether Trump can be disqualified from holding office, as state courts have come to different conclusions around the country. Last month, the Colorado Supreme Court said Trump is constitutionally ineligible to run for president because of the 14th Amendment's ban on insurrectionists holding office. Police are searching for a gunman who fatally shot an imam outside his mosque in Newark, New Jersey early this morning. They do not have a motive and say the shooting does not appear to be motivated by bias or terrorism, but still comes at a time of increased tension during the Israel-Hamas war. A Republican-led House committee is advancing its effort to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, alleging he has poorly handled his duty of managing the U.S.-Mexico border. Earlier today, Mayorkas told MSNBC that he would fully cooperate with the investigation and the hearings. A federal court ruled that Texas emergency rooms are not required to provide abortions for women whose lives are at risk due to pregnancy. The court says the Biden administration cannot use a 1986 emergency care law that requires ERs to provide stabilizing treatment for anyone who comes in. Nearly all abortions are banned in Texas except to save the life of the mother. And they may be small but mighty. Meet the latest addition to the American Kennel Club. Today, the organization announced the Lancashire Heeler as their newest breed, now eligible to compete in dog shows nationwide. They stand just about a foot tall, weigh about 17 pounds, and are known to be very athletic. And if you haven't heard yet, a huge cross-country storm is making its way east, and it could be the first major snow for some cities in 2 years. Today, the storm brought rain and snow to portions of Southern California and the Great Basin. This was the scene in San Bernardino County as snow blanketed roads and cars. In the next few days, the storm will intensify pretty quickly as it heads up north. Our NBC meteorologist Bill Cairns is here to tell us more about what we can expect. Good evening, Bill.
Well, good evening to you, Valerie. And this is the big story, right? What's going to happen with this winter storm when it makes its way across the country, and especially those areas of the East Coast that just haven't seen snow in 2 years, forever for some people. So here's the storm system, what it's doing now. We have advisories and watches out for different areas. So anywhere in white is where we have winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings in some areas of northern New Mexico. And we're already in anticipation of the next storm. Winter storm watches up for areas in the Sierra. I know that with this storm alone, Tahoe reported up to 9 inches. Mammoth reported 10 to 15 inches. So finally, the Sierra, the central Sierra, did get some snow out of this. So as the storm continues to move now into the Four Corners region, snow is spreading through southern portions of Utah, northern Arizona, by the rim, especially Flagstaff, Grand Canyon, the higher elevations there are going to get some snow out of this. And then we'll push this during the day tomorrow into areas of New Mexico. So from Albuquerque northwards, best chance of accumulating snow is also the southern half here of Colorado. Unfortunately for like Aspen, Vail area, Copper, heading to Steamboat, not a lot of snow out of this one for you. Then the snow will spread as we go through Thursday night into areas of North Texas. Wichita, you'll wake up Friday morning with some snow on the ground. Then it looks like on Friday the storm dips to the south. It's too warm. There won't be a lot of snow at this point. We'll be watching mostly just a rain event. Then as we go throughout Saturday morning, freezing rain is possible in areas of the mountains of Virginia, also in North Carolina. And then snow breaks out during the day on Saturday across a good portion of Pennsylvania, northern portions and western portions of Maryland also, and then into the Hudson Valley, the Catskills late in the day. Notice the mixed line. That's kind of this orange. So the blue is the snow, ice or sleet mix, and then you get all rain. Right now, it looks like brief winter weather over to rain in Washington, D.C. Same for Philadelphia. New York City, it looks like starting as some snow, possibly mixing into rain. But once you get north of that into southern New England, it should stay all snow for many areas, especially all the high elevations. Right now, it looks like Boston is mostly going to be snow, too, with it ending as we go throughout your day on Sunday. So it's a little too early to pinpoint exactly how much snow, but we have colorized it like this, from light, moderate to heavy. Areas of the purple, that's heavy snow. In the mountains, you get it. Northern New Mexico, we talked about the higher elevations of Arizona and southern Colorado. As we go in through areas of the Northeast and Ohio Valley, anywhere in white, you have a chance for at least a coating of snow, light amounts. When you get to the blue, that's where you should have enough snow to be doing some plowing. Of course, a lot of the higher elevations outside of the I-95 corridor. So from I-95 to the coast, looks like almost nothing. Once you get from into the big cities, into the suburbs, that's when you should start to get some of those accumulations. The best chance of high accumulation is the hills near Worcester, southern portions of Vermont, right through the mountains of the Berkshires, the Catskills, the Poconos, and then the central portions of the Appalachians into Pennsylvania. Those are the best bets for significant snow out of this. And to end the snow drought, we need about 1 inch of snow, Valerie. And here's the percentage chances of getting that. A flip of a coin if we get an inch in D.C. It looks like we should get an inch in Central Park before it mixes and changes to rain. Possibility in Philadelphia. So no promises, Valerie. This is going to be the storm to watch over the next couple days.
All right, Bill Cairns, thank you so much. Hospitals across the country are seeing a high number of patients sick with the flu, and concerns are growing as more kids are getting sick. The CDC estimates there have been more than 7 million people sick with the flu so far, with 73,000 hospitalizations and more than 4,500 deaths. Of those deaths, at least 20 pediatric deaths have been reported. And when we take a look at vaccination rates, more than half of kids and teens have not gotten a flu shot. One doctor at a hospital in Louisiana says based on the cases they're seeing there, this flu season is shaping up to be the worst they've seen since 2009.
That's something I worry about because no one knows where the peak is going to be. We know where the peak was and the duration was in past outbreaks of flu, but this current one, it's only people's best guess as to where it'll peak.
Okay, NBC News medical fellow Dr. Akshay Syal joins me now. Doctor, we just heard from that doctor in Louisiana. That's where the CDC says very high cases of respiratory illness are being reported compared to other states. We know we just got through the holidays. People were gathered. Are we expecting things to get worse before they get better?
Unfortunately, Valerie, yes, we are. We are expecting things to rise into January. You know, I talked to 4 different experts in 4 different states around the country, kind of echoing what you just heard in the video there. The cases are continuing to rise, and they expect them to continue to rise. But, Valerie, what's really different this year, you know, last year we talked a lot about the triple-demic, right? The flu, the COVID, the RSV. But what we saw in hindsight was one hitting after the other. We had RSV, then flu, and then when COVID came, the other 2 kind of went away. What we're seeing now, Valerie, is both flu and COVID are kind of neck and neck. They're hitting at the same time, and that's something we haven't seen before since the COVID came around. So experts are kind of anxiously awaiting how is that going to affect hospital capacity and the ICUs.
And I know we were talking about kids earlier. Kids are affected differently from flu versus adults. What should parents know about possible complications? And is there any way to prevent how severe some of these cases can get? We know that they can result in death sometimes.
They can. And to answer your second question, their vaccination, it is absolutely not too late to get your vaccine. And that map you showed there where it showed very high versus, sort of high, you don't want to wait for it to get very high. You want to go out and get your flu shot because it takes about 2 weeks to work. You can see on your map here it's highest in the south and in the southeast. But if you're in those other areas, it is still not too late to get your flu shot. But Valerie, kids can be affected severely, and it's really those under the age of 5, particularly those under the age of 2. The virus can sort of overwhelm their lungs. It can cause really high fevers, can cause pneumonias, infections in the ear and the nose and the sinus, and also flare-ups of chronic disease, and specifically with things like asthma, for example, can really make it hard for kids to breathe, and they could end up in the hospital.
You mentioned triple-demic. COVID, flu, RSV. We're seeing all of those things right now. Everyone is coughing everywhere you go. Is this something that we should get used to seeing all of these things happening at once?
I think so, unfortunately. I think this is going to, in 12 months, we will probably be talking about the same thing. And, COVID and flu both have updated vaccines. RSV, if you are over the age of 60 or if you are a pregnant patient, you can get the vaccine to protect a newborn. So all of these things, we do have the tools to fight them. People actually just have to go out and get the shots.
All right, so important to do that. Dr. Akshay Syal, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Anytime.
Coming up, a Las Vegas judge was attacked in court today during a sentencing hearing. We have those details, but first, you got to see this. Ohio State Patrol officers seen here apprehending an especially slippery suspect. The troopers were called in to wrangle a runaway pig, found hoofing it in a McDonald's drive-thru of all places. Looks like he had plans to pig out there. Get it? The tricky trotter was eventually caught and safely reunited with its owner, but not before taking officials on a hog wild chase. It's kind of cute, though. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Here are some of the stories happening out west that we're following. The father of that 10-year-old boy who shot another 10-year-old appeared in court today. Arkady Davis was charged with several firearm-related charges, child endangerment, and being an accessory to the crime. His son shot and killed 10-year-old KJ Fearson on Saturday with Davis's illegally owned gun. The 10-year-old shooter was also arrested and is facing a murder charge. In Las Vegas, a judge there was attacked today during a sentencing hearing. A man being sentenced for a charge of attempted battery lunged at Judge Mary Kay Holthus. They eventually got the man off of her. She was taken to the hospital but is expected to be okay. Prosecutors say the man had a history of violent crimes. Police over in Santa Cruz, California got quite an interesting call on New Year's Eve. It turns out a World War II practice bomb washed up on a beach there. The local bomb squad inspected it, and teams even did an X-ray. They determined it was free of explosives. Apparently, the rough surf from storms last week actually washed the bomb ashore. A lot of breaking news out of the southern border today. Just hours ago, the Department of Justice sued the state of Texas over a law that would have armed police with the right to arrest migrants who enter the country illegally. The state's Republican governor, Greg Abbott, signed the controversial law last month. Meanwhile, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson visited the border town of Eagle Pass, Texas today with more than 60 Republican congressmen. Here's some of what he said.
What we saw today only made House Republicans more resolved to stand for sanity and the American people, and we will do it. If President Biden wants a supplemental spending bill focused on national security, it better begin by defending America's national security.
The trip comes at a crucial time. Tomorrow, the Biden administration plans to reopen 4 ports of entry after closing them during a record-setting month of apprehensions. Customs and Border Protection encountered more than 300,000 migrants in December alone. NBC News correspondent Morgan Chesky has more.
Yeah, good afternoon. That press conference from Speaker of the House Johnson just wrapped up a short time ago right here on the banks of the Rio Grande and Eagle Pass. And in these short remarks, we heard him explicitly say that the crisis happening at the border is by the design of President Biden. This coming just after last night's remarks from the president asking for more funding to try to solve the crisis here on the border. This GOP delegation included dozens of lawmakers here who wanted to witness what was taking place firsthand. And I should note, as they were making their remarks, a migrant family crossed the Rio Grande almost exactly behind me. It was a mother and a father and 3 young children. The father carrying his young daughter clad in pink pajamas, setting the tone for what was taking place today as they discussed potential solutions. Meantime, federal officials do say that despite those record numbers that we saw in December, there is a noticeable dip in the new year. We know that on Monday alone in this Del Rio sector, which includes Eagle Pass, 500 migrant encounters were reported. That is going up against days last month where the average was in the thousands. So despite that noticeable dip, which of course is a relief to many, there is acknowledgement by nearly every party involved that this is only temporary and that they expect the numbers to rise yet again when it comes to large groups of migrants crossing. They actually federal officials credit the Mexican government with cracking down on migrant activity. However, they're not citing explicitly what they're doing on that side of the river to achieve that. Right now, we do know that the additional numbers should be released within the next week or two from December, and that will really paint a picture on what is being called by a growing number of people an ongoing deepening crisis here. Our trip with the Texas Marine Tactical Unit today showed us stretches of the riverbanks where concertina wire is piled high and debris from migrants crossing is littered everywhere, just going to show the sheer number of people that are coming across and will likely continue doing so. We'll send it back to you.
All right, NBC's Morgan Chesky, thanks so much. Newly released body camera footage shows a Los Angeles sheriff's deputy fatally shooting a mother of 2 last month. Now, Niani Finlayson's family is taking legal action over her death. NBC News daily anchor Zincle Esamoah has more, and we want to warn you the video you are about to see is disturbing.
These are the tense moments from police body camera footage showing the night an L.A. sheriff's deputy shot and killed a 27-year-old black woman, Niani Finlayson, in front of her daughter.
They're in the back room if they're not answering.
According to police, on December 4th, Finlayson grabbed her estranged boyfriend with one hand and was holding a knife with the other after threatening to stab him. Police say they were responding to a 911 call from the mother of 2 who said her ex would not leave her alone. The family calling it a domestic violence call.
I need the police here right now. No, because he won't get his hands off of me.
The family attorney telling NBC's Liz Kreutz Finlayson called for help because her former boyfriend was allegedly strangling her and hurting her 9-year-old daughter, Seisha.
He was hurting my mother and me.
The family privately viewing the body camera footage before its public release on Friday.
What surprised you the most about what you saw?
How fast he switched from the taser to the gun.
Give me a taser.
The video shows one deputy appearing to hand off her yellow stun gun to the deputy identified by police as Ty Shelton. Shelton pulling the trigger of his gun about 4 seconds after entering the residence.
Hey, come out, come out. Yeah, I'm going to stab him because he just...
We've paused the video before the deputy fires 4 times. The man in the apartment then crying out.
No! No! Drop it! Why did you shoot? Drop it!
When you're looking at proper police tactics, they had that opportunity when she opened the door. They didn't take it. They did nothing to de-escalate as they're required to do under the law.
Police releasing still images showing the kitchen knife Finlayson was holding when they opened the door and her hand on the male's arm just moments before the deputy opened fire.
Your granddaughter saw this shooting unfold. How has she been? What is she saying?
Well, she constantly says she misses her mother. It just shocks her because she had her mother's blood on her. When I had to tell her that her mother was not coming back, she broke down in a way that I have never heard her cry.
On Tuesday, the family filed a legal claim planning to sue the city of Los Angeles and the deputy who fired the fatal shot for $70 million in damages. We reached out to Deputy Ty Shelton, but did not hear back. He is still employed by the Sheriff's Department. The Los Angeles Sheriff's Department saying they are conducting an investigation as the county DA's office conducts an independent review. Adding in a public statement in part, the department released the body-worn camera footage ahead of the legal time frame to demonstrate our commitment to transparency.
This is not transparency, but they also did not provide us with all of the body-worn camera footage.
The Finlayson family now entering a new year without Niani.
All right, Zincle Asamoah, thanks so much. Laws in states across the country are taking aim at unpaid driving tickets. For some drivers, if you get a ticket and don't pay it, you could end up in a vicious cycle, even getting caught in a loop of legal trouble. NBC's Maura Barrett explains.
In Austin, Texas, Monica Sanchez thought her driver's license renewal would be no problem.
I expected to get my license in the mail, and instead I got the letter stating that my license had been suspended because of the fact that I had unpaid tickets, and I started riding the bus.
She traced the issue back to tickets from years earlier.
Around that time, I was going through a divorce. I was a housewife, so I wasn't working at the time, and I didn't really have the funds at the time to pay.
It spiraled, she says, into about $2,000 of tickets and court fees. Those fees racked up in part because of Texas's failure to appear, failure to pay program, also known as Omnibase after the company that services the fee payments. Until people pay or appear in court, a hold is placed on their license renewals. But critics say the holds disproportionately impact low-income and minority communities. Sanchez is one of more than 600,000 Texans who have lost their licenses under this program, according to the Texas Department of Public Safety. Desperate for help, Monica reached out to a legal nonprofit.
At Texas Fair Defense Project, we fight the criminalization of poverty.
Senior Policy Director Sarah Mae Jennings says a simple $300 ticket can break the bank for many Texans, and that added fees can make matters even worse.
Clients come to us desperate. They are like, I have been stuck in this heap of legal debt and Class C tickets in a way that now feels unnavigable to me. A DWI, right, carries with it a year-long suspension. 2/3 of people impacted by Omnibase are impacted by it for more than 2 years.
So more than an offense for a DWI?
Yes. It's crazy.
And in a state where public transportation is often a poor substitute for driving, getting behind the wheel without a license can feel like the only option.
And actually, after 2 convictions for driving while licensed invalid, that's a jailable offense.
So it's a very slippery slope that starts with just a $200 or $300 ticket.
Exactly.
Critics question whether the program is effective in collecting payments. One report found it actually results in $45 less collected per case. Omnibase declining to comment, but in front of Texas lawmakers in April, a company representative praised the program as fair and effective.
The program doesn't target poor and minority communities. If this program is repealed, we will likely see an increase in failures to appear across the state, and will absolutely see a greater use of warrants.
The Texas Department of Public Safety telling NBC News in part that it's required by law to maintain the failure to appear program, and assistance for low-income drivers can be provided. There are some alternatives. People with holds can apply for interim occupational driver's licenses, relief of fees, and alternative ways to pay back their debt, like community service. But Jennings says few people know these opportunities exist. And it's not just Texas. Across states like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, and Florida, similar programs impact hundreds of thousands more people. But back in the Lone Star State, Monica still trying to put her life back together.
It is frustrating. It's depressing. I honestly wish that I wasn't in this position. I was already down, and it feels like I'm being kicked again to stay down.
Jenny says many of her clients recognize that they've made mistakes and they want to pay back what they owe, but they just had no idea that the cost would be this severe. Now, Sanchez has been able to carve off about $1,000 in fees thanks to the nonprofit's help. And in the meantime, Jennings and her team are working to raise awareness within the courts to talk about alternative payment options. Back to you.
All right, Maura Barrett, thanks so much for that reporting. Still to come, outrage in Italy over pizza. A famous chef in Naples broke an unwritten rule by adding pineapple to his pies. We'll tell you why it's a controversy now dividing the country. That story and others trending around the world are next, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Let's take a quick look around the world. Rescue crews in Japan continue to search for survivors in the rubble left behind by Monday's powerful earthquake and the dozens of aftershocks that followed. Experts say the prospects for survival diminished greatly after the first 72 hours. As of right now, at least 73 people have been killed by the quakes. Russia and Ukraine orchestrate the largest prisoner swap of the war so far. Ukraine says they received 230 prisoners of war, while Russia says they got 248 servicemen. Today's deal was brokered by the United Arab Emirates, and it's the first prisoner exchange between the two countries in nearly 5 months. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan has been indicted for allegedly insulting election officials. Khan has already been locked up since August. He is serving a 3-year sentence for corruption. Khan has been tangled up in legal battles since being ousted as Prime Minister in April of 2022. And pizza purists in Italy are PO'd. That's because so-called pizza maestro Gino Sorbio has decided to put pineapple on his pies. And to top it off, he filmed himself taking a bite. Appearing to anticipate the coming backlash, he told his customers to keep an open mind. And I'm not against pineapple on pizza, I have to say. Doctors in the UK have launched the longest strike in the history of the National Health Service. As flu and COVID cases are spiking across the UK, hospitals throughout England are planning to operate without junior doctors for at least the next 6 days. Doctors say they'll stop striking once they receive a credible offer for a fair pay raise, but the government insists it won't go to the bargaining table unless doctors end the strike. Sky News' Shingi Maraki has the details.
You get an email saying that due to strike action, due to unforeseen circumstances, your appointment's been cancelled. We'll reschedule it for another time.
Paul is at his lowest. He's had 2 heart surgeries cancelled, and to make matters worse, he spent Christmas and New Year away from his family.
You bring your kids up, you want to spend time with them. It doesn't help with mental state as well. Being stuck in places like this, away from your family when you should be with your family at Christmas time.
The fear is that industrial action doesn't just impact people waiting for procedures like Paul, but that it could compound the usual winter pressure on the NHS.
So the 13-hour wait this morning to be seen by a doctor. We've got patients on corridors. We've got ambulances queuing in the corridor as well.
At the Royal Preston Hospital, you can see those pressures everywhere you look.
We're looking at 1,000 patients at this point affected. But obviously, it's the first day of the strike, so we'll constantly be reviewing. But at this point in time, it's 1,000. Routine elective care today could then become an emergency if it's not managed and treated as the condition gets worse. So it can't be underestimated, the profound impact this has across the board.
What do you want? Fair pay! When do you want it? Now! The picket lines across the country are a loud reminder of the gulf between the government and the BMA, who say the government's offer of an extra 3% pay rise for junior doctors on top of 8.8% already given would amount to a real terms pay cut for many of its members after years of below-inflation pay rises.
But the government failed to present us with a credible offer that would be able to see doctors find their pay restored back to 2008 levels and reverse the 26% deep pay cuts that doctors have had.
The government says it is willing to talk if strikes are called off.
We have already moved when it comes to reflecting the pressures on doctors at the beginning of their careers, but we cannot continue these negotiations if we have this strike action hanging over the whole of the NHS and over patients.
But beyond the pay dispute are people whose lives are being impacted by an issue outside of their control that shows no sign of ending soon. Shingi Murray, Sky News, Royal Preston Hospital.
And before we go tonight, a lawsuit over candy will explain why a woman is suing Hershey's for their peanut butter cups. Yes, this is a real story, and yes, she's looking for $5 million. Those details are next, so stay tuned. Tonight in the Future of Everything, we're looking at the future of darts. We'll get to that in just a minute. But first, a check of the business and tech headlines we're watching tonight. Ford is recalling more than 100,000 F-150 trucks over a part that could cause the pickups to roll away when they are parked. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says the rear axle hub bolt could break. And trouble for Apple after Barclays downgraded the tech giant. Experts say Apple is now listed as an underweight after demands for the iPhone 15 were underwhelming. The downgrade caused Apple shares to drop by 4%. That does it for us tonight. I'm Valerie Castro. We will see you tomorrow, but until then, stay tuned now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.